Financial freedom. Oh my gosh, building financial freedom. Who doesn't want that? I think everybody craves, desires, dreams about that. And our guest today is going to help us get one step closer. George Thomas, the founder, CEO, head coach of Financial Builders Academy, correct?
Freedom Builders Academy, that's right.
Can you tell us, what does this mean? And how can people get engaged and start building their financial freedom?
Yeah, well, first off, appreciate you having me on, Bridget, and excited to be on the show. So Freedom Builders Academy was a concept just to really help people along the way, specifically in the journey that a lot of people find themselves in. Of course, as you know, they say 60%. I think it's higher than 60%, but they say 60% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck. Somewhere around 30 or 40% are either having a second job or a side hustle. So what's happened is that just about the majority of us are consumed with a lot of our time, and we don't have time or feel that we have time to do things, right? So what, our coaching started from many years ago. It was really spending one-on-one time, dedicated time with either myself or any of our coaches to spend time with tailor-made details on what's going on in your life and what are the viable and the tangible and accountable solutions we can put in place so that people can see their transformation. Although that's continued to flourish and it's doing well, reality is that a lot of people don't have time sometimes to spend 30 minutes twice a month with a coach. Although it's valuable to them, they don't know when they would do it with kids and work. So what Freedom Builders Academy is we've given the time back to you. The course itself has 4 modules. It has expense management, learning how to manage expense. A lot of times people don't know where their money is going. This will provide you an illumination on one of the chapters. The chapter is a budget. Sometimes a lot of people don't even know what's a budget, how to create a budget, the myths around a budget, the whole detail. And so there's a whole chapter loaded with that one. Investing. A lot of times people want to know, hey, I should be investing. I want to invest, but there's a lot to it. I don't want to lose money. I want to know the mechanics. There's an entire chapter loaded with all sorts of content around investing, whether it's through stock market, trading, crypto, forex, real estate, whatever you want to get into. And on the last piece is a lot of times people have a vision. They want to learn how to, they want to start a business. They want to start a project or whatever the case may be. And time seems to be an issue. So we have a full chapter on how to do time management and action implementation on any vision you have in your life, and what are the steps, or how do you organize yourself? How do you build that process? So each of those chapters, it's a self-paced course, but each of those chapters has study guides, quizzes, homework, 30-minute instructor-led video, and then at the end, a final exam of a culmination of all the chapters. And so we did that to give people the ability to learn at their own pace. They can do it with their family, etc. And so, that was a game changer for us, I would say about 7-8 months ago, and it's been transformative for a lot of people.
So what led you to this passion in the first place? So what were you doing before you were doing this? Like, how did you end up coaching people just in financial building systems and really taking control of their money? What led to that?
Yeah, the journey started originally with my parents. My parents are both immigrants from the Dominican Republic. They came here before I was born, so this was many, many years ago. But they came here just trying to, start living the American dream, as they say, right? And so working really hard for my sister and I. They gave us a great life. We didn't have everything, but we had what we needed, right? And we had each other ultimately. But what I saw very early along the way was how much time it was costing them to be able to make this reality for us as a family, right? The countless hours, the overtime, the working, the being tired, the going to work sick, my dad hurting his back, my mom getting older. And so they're spending all of this time to do this. And they also had to put dreams to the side. My dad's a minister in a church in Florida. And even to this day, he finds himself doing bivocational work because he was still on a journey from all the time he had already spent trying to build a life for my sister and I. And so very early on, I said, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this, because most people that I'm aware of or I've come across, and I come across even today, are trading time for money. And what's happened is that as you're trading that time away, those loved ones that are around you that you care about, right? Whether it's your parents or your spouse, right? I'm married, I've been married for it'll be 10 years next month. And then, or your children, right? So I have three beautiful boys. And so all of these people that you care about are getting older, right? And if anything the pandemic taught us was time is so delicate and it's so fragile, and it's our most valuable asset at the end of the day.
Right.
And so if your most valuable asset is being consumed on having to make ends meet because you don't have enough of the resources, which money is not necessarily an asset. Money is simply just a resource, or what we call as a tool. So people are lacking the tool, which is then costing them to use their most valuable asset to try to get as much of that tool that they can. And so I said, okay, this whole thing is flipped backwards. I want to spend more time with them. And so I found a way to do money system and processes to start using the asset to multiply and compound without using my time. And so with that, I was able to now spend more time with my family, spend more time with my parents. You know, I'm always at the kids' event. Tomorrow, my kid has a field trip at a baseball game. I'm there. I was coaching one of my other kids on Saturday. My wife wants to go on a Europe cruise for our 10-year anniversary. We're there next month. Yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. I'm a big New York Knicks fan. You know, whether that's good or bad, that's for another day. But they haven't been NBA champions since the 1970s. But I've always said if they get to the finals, I'm going. And not only
You're going to be there.
I'm taking my father. My father's always been a Knicks fan. I became a Knicks fan through my father. But those memories, those things that people would long to do, I said, okay, I can do this. And so I created money systems. And that really was that was my why behind why I started this program, because it was about, we found the road, and then it's other people, countless other individuals would like to be on that same road. They just don't know how to get there. So we try to connect the dots.
I want to ask you a couple of questions, and these might seem super specific, but it's something that I run into frequently in my coaching business. So what would you say to someone who, for example, young couple living in a very high cost of living area, they don't have the income even to live on their own, and yet they stay there? Like, what do you say to people if you find yourself and you are barely paycheck to pay? They're not even paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. They're currently being subsidized by one of my friends who happens to be one of the parents. Yeah. And yet they refuse to change their situation and move to an area with a cost of living that would be more commensurate with their income. I know that that's a pretty dramatic example, but what would you say to that? So if you had a new coaching client and they came to you with that scenario, where do you even start with them, and what would you recommend?
Yeah, the good news is that, a couple of things. The first thing is that one answer doesn't fit all. One response doesn't answer all the questions for everyone. So I always tell everybody that, anybody we ever come across, I tell my coaches that, hey, I don't care how good our program is and what we do and all the testimonials we have. At the end of the day, we don't have the answers to all the questions, right? And so I tell people that all the time. We don't know everything. We don't know the answers to all the questions. But what we can do is use history to be a indicator of future circumstances that may arise, right? And so with that being said, we have run into couples that have been in that situation, similar situation, where they're living based off of means that their mom and dad are subsidizing to help them get by. They're making some money, but they have a lot of debt, whether it's from credit card debt, from weddings, you talk about young couples,
right,
from children, right. Whatever the case, school loans, right? All these things. And yet, to your point, they're choosing not to change up things because, nobody, most times with humans, they're not really creatures of change, right? We like, we're creatures of habit. We're in our zone. We're in our thing. Number two, social economic status, right? You don't want to be that people that were living in the nice neighborhood and now you're living in the hood, right? Because of means, right? Education, right? Depending on how young those kids are, if they're in a good school, you don't really want to have to uproot them to a different school. And so you're stuck. And so what are you doing? So here's the reality. The first thing I would say is aside from just the mechanics, the first thing I would say is that if you want to change who you are, you're going to have to let go of who you currently are, right? So if you're not willing to let go of who you are, you can't change into somebody you want to become. And so the reality is that without sacrifice, you won't be able to see progress in anything, right? So my faith is very important, right? My faith, I'm a devoted Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. So even in that story, right, there was sacrifice, right? So for us to have reconciliation, it required a sacrifice. So if, as individuals, if we're finding ourselves in a situation that we don't want to be in, if we're not willing to provide a sacrifice, we won't see progress, even in the United States, in this country, right? Forget about the fact of whether you like it or don't like. The fact is that this country and all the rights and all the things that we have and the freedom and liberties, they came on sacrifices of individuals that decided that, hey, they were going to put themselves on the line for the future of those other people. So if they didn't do that, then we would still be under England's rule, right? Or whatever the case may be. Right. So at the end of the day, you have to have sacrifice involved. And so if you're not willing to sacrifice to change, you have to be comfortable in the situation you are. And most people right now are comfortable because it becomes too difficult to think, man, that just seems so tough to overcome that. I'm tired. I don't have it in me. I don't think I can do it, or whatever the case may be. So what I tell people is start one step at a time. You conquer the first checkpoint, and then you go to the next checkpoint, and then the next checkpoint, and then the next checkpoint. So that's the easy part. The hard part is can you map out the plan with the checkpoints in there that you need to follow so that then you will find yourself where you want to be on the other side. And that's what we call the money system, changing it back to
Mm-hmm.
now finances, right? Went from
Mm-hmm.
philosophical, spiritual, all that. Now we're going back to the finances. But in the finances, you've got to be able to create what's called a money system. You got to understand how money operates, how time operates, how energy operates. And then within those things and understanding where your baselines are, you map out your exit. You map, hey, I'm trying to get here. I need to do this, and this. Looking at it from the big picture sounds insurmountable. But today we're only worried about the first check. Let's get here. So if your expenses are here and we need to get here, okay, to get to here, we need to do the following things. So the only thing you care about is not necessarily getting out of debt. It's getting back to this checkpoint by doing the following things, and then you stick to it. Once you get to that checkpoint, you don't have to figure out what you're doing next once you have the map. Now we know we're going here or whatever the case may be. But most people don't have a money system, and so they're just existing.
What do you recommend if someone has had a money system and life goes sideways? So either, who knows what it could be, job loss, or maybe, a big challenge with their family, or something disrupts their financial system and they feel as if they are starting over from scratch. That can be heavy. What do you recommend for someone who's in that situation?
Well, the first thing I would say is, you mentioned, because the first part you mentioned was, if they have a money system and then this happens and they had to start over, then my first question I would ask is, I would question the money system, because in the money system, you would have to account for unexpected expenses that may come along the way. We all have them. The flat tire, the sudden health emergency, these things. Now, can you account for it for every single dollar? Maybe yes, maybe no. But if you defined a true money system, within that system, it would have been accounted for those particular things. So in one case, this happened a few years back. I was, in my financial community, I started a challenge within there, just to get people kind of, especially people that are newer to investing. We started a challenge and we're still in it now. But I told them that I'm going to buy through them, and they're following the journey on their side, and of course they're doing it on their own thing. I told them I'm going to buy cash a Toyota Tundra. I'm going to buy it through the investments that we're doing. Okay, now that's just straight to investing. But along the way, 2 or 3 years ago, I had, at the time, it was a Nissan Rogue, and I got it, I think I got it like in 2013, ran it to the grave, and the transmission blew.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the process of I want to buy a Tundra through this investing. But one of the vehicles that we have, the transmission went. Now I need a vehicle. Well, that's an unexpected expense in some regards, right? Well, no, it's not. Because the day I bought that vehicle, the Rogue, way back when, I knew that day that I would need to buy another vehicle, because I'm still young and I still plan to drive, and I'm not of age where I'm going to be incapacitated or unable or incapable of driving. So this car is not going to last me for the next 40, 50, 60 years. I know that. So that day, I knew I needed to start planning for the next car, because I don't know when it was going to come. And so the day that the unexpected transmission blew, the money was there to buy another car cash, even though I was still going to buy cash a Toyota Tundra at some point. Those two things are two different things, but the system was already in place. So the first thing I would say is, if the money system wasn't in place, then the unexpected expense should have been accounted for. But now that we are here, right, like the map, you are here, and nothing accounted for, the first thing I would say is that, you're probably going to go on a journey. It doesn't mean you're at your end destination, but you're going to go on a journey. And so if the journey is that now that you are here on the map, where you weren't expecting to be anywhere on this side of the map, but now that you're here, have to remap out where you are going to get back on the road that you were at before this happened. And again, with time and with a process and with discipline, you can get back on the road. You just won't be there tomorrow. It may take a little bit longer, but if you then at least account for it with a system, you'll get back, and you just gotta give yourself a little bit of time.
Well, what's interesting, and what I just picked up from what you said, is not only would you get back to where you were before, you would have a stronger system in place when you arrive and then surpass where you have been in the past. So you're much more likely to not lose it all again and have to be the phoenix rising from the ashes. So sure. I do think that's really, really critical.
So we have shirts that we sell, and I've been brainstorming for the last 2 or 3 months. Like, man, what's the next shirt I'm going to put? And so one of our members in our community said, hey, man, I love this quote that we say here. And I said, you know what? That's going to probably be my next shirt. There are two outcomes when it comes to your financial journey. There are wins and then there are lessons. It's only two outcomes. If you think of it only as wins and lessons, you will only find yourself progressing. And so in that scenario, to your point, you started back working your way up, but it's not a loss. You're on a journey with a lesson learned. So I won't do that the next time. So there are only wins and lessons when it comes to your finance.
That would be a great shirt.
Yeah.
If I had a vote, I would vote yes. So I think let's say someone is listening to you and I talk and they're thinking, well, that sounds great for everyone else. It won't work for me because, and then they've got the limiting beliefs. I had a foreclosure. I had a car repossessed. I am not good with money. I can't, whatever belief they have, I owe the IRS. Well, what would you say to someone that's listening right now that feels like, sure, but not for me because of X?
Yeah. What I would say, the first thing I unfortunately would say, I would give kind of cold reality. Then you're right. It's not for you, because this journey of financial freedom is for those that are willing to withstand the journey that it requires to get there. So yeah, it may very well not be for you, only because you don't believe that it is. But in regards to, in reality, if you can get there, of course you can get there. I can go stories for days. There's a guy that is in our community. He's a great guy. I got to meet him through this whole thing, and unfortunately, he actually was in prison for a while. Has 7 kids, same mom. So that's crazy sound. Same mom, but has 7 kids. Was in prison for a while. Was in the dumps, right? And credit score shot, the whole thing. And none of us are in that. Hopefully, at least none of us are hearing this is in that situation. And if it's you, then take solace to what we're saying here. But that gentleman, it was only simply about creating the blueprint as to, okay, from here, this is what you need to do, and you need to be patient, you need to be consistent, and you just need to simply follow the plan. And if you stick to it, over time, you're going to see progress. The man is doing fantastic. I couldn't be more proud of where he is. I mean, the man has literally transformed himself financially. His kids, he has college funds for his kids that he's got going on there now. He's investing. He's learned, how to multiply his income. He's a manager of a warehouse company, doing great. And so anybody, wherever we find ourselves in, regardless of where we find ourselves in, there is a path forward with a plan. All you simply just have to do is believe that there's a plan for you, and then just simply execute the plan with discipline. And over time, with time, you will start seeing the outcomes you're looking for on the other side.
It's so critical that people hear that. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you finish.
Yes.
And the journey to get there.
That's right.
And so that's a brilliant story. He sounds like someone I would actually like to meet. You are the founder of the company and one of the head coaches, or the head coach?
One of. I don't
one of
know
the head
coaching.
coaches.
I love coaching. I do love coaching. Mm-hmm. It's every time I get to coach a client or whatnot, it's always just like, man, I leave always so energized. I love it, right? I'm passionate about what I do, but I do have a team around me, which is fantastic, which allows me then to focus on speaking, getting to know people and connecting with people and doing speaking arrangements and doing stuff like this. But I do coach from time to time, yes.
And how do you keep yourself passionately engaged and being that leader that you want to be for your team and showing up in a powerful way as the CEO and the leader of this company?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding where I came from. I came from humble beginnings. So I know that, God has definitely blessed me immensely. So I don't take that for granted. I have a beautiful family. I have a lot of things. And at the end of the day, I care about people. That's what it comes down to at the core of it all. I care about people and their financial future. So every day I get up, it's really to say, okay, who can we help today get one step closer to their goal of financial freedom? Who can we give hope to? Who can we give a plan to? Who can we give guidance to? Who can we give an opportunity to? What organization can we provide a solution for? That's another thing that we've been doing lately is a lot of times working with organizations. A lot of these organizations, small businesses and beyond, these people, offering 401k for employees, that's expensive. Not all these companies can afford that. In other cases, large companies, they're looking to find ways to cut costs, right? Especially being more efficient with their funds, especially with the margins and inflation. Providing solutions for these organizations that, hey, we'll work directly with your staff to provide these solutions and get them where they need to be. We work with Division I athletes. A lot of these athletes are
Oh, yeah.
They're getting these monies, right? The NIL money and all this. Young kids, 18, 19 years old, a lot of them coming from impoverished neighborhoods and backgrounds, never seen that kind of money, but you're giving them now 50, 70, 100, $200,000. I mean, you're setting them up for failure, right? With that money,
Right.
getting themselves in a world of trouble. So working with these schools, hey, we're going to set these kids up with a plan. Let them, give them the ability to make sound decisions financially. We don't touch assets. That's one of our biggest differentiators, is that we don't touch assets of anybody. All we care about is training the mindset. And so every day I get up, it's like, okay, who can I influence? Who can we empower? And that in of itself is more than enough reason to wake up every day.
It sounds like you just wake up ready to roll.
Oh,
You have truly connected your business and your work to your passion.
that's right.
Now, you mentioned the S word, schools. I'm going to share possibly an unpopular opinion that I hold. I feel like in our education system in the United States, we do not teach financial literacy. We do not teach how money works. We don't teach how credit works. We don't teach about taxes. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree because because it's the truth. I mean, it's not
Right,
like
okay.
sometimes like, man, they don't teach them in schools, and no, they don't, because it was designed from the beginning for this to be not that way. I tell people this all the time. You know, we have these like standoffish comments like, man, they don't teach it. They don't teach it because it wasn't designed
They
this
don't
way.
teach
Back
it.
in the late 1800s, John Rockefeller came up with the General Education Board. Now, his intentions were nice because he was really trying to create this system to help those with lower income backgrounds, right? A lot of times it was the African American community, but there were a lot of other communities struggling financially in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he wanted to create a system so that these people can learn a vocation so that they would be able to support their families for the remainder of their lives. So that's where the General Education Board was created. But the problem is that the system was created to teach you a vocation. It was okay, and we got away with it for a while because then we went into the roaring 20s and then the golden ages and all these things, the Industrial Revolution. So the vocation was making people money on the back end, and if you stayed long enough, you got the pension or whatever the case may be.
The gold watch.
Nobody complained. Yeah, and then the gold rush. Nobody complained about any of those things because money was coming on the other side. But here's the problem. As we went down the system, the dollar value was going up during that time. But then the dollar value has been slowly declining ever since
That's
then.
right.
So what's happened is the system has never changed, which means that the dollar's declining, which means now people, without even realizing it, when they say, man, I feel like I'm always working, you probably are.
You probably are,
You're
yeah.
having to work more to make the same amount of money because your dollar's not going as far. And so because of that, the system was created to teach us a vocation. Why do you think college is so important? I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with colleges, right? I got degrees. I got no problem with college. But the reality is the system is built that you get a vocation so that you work in the remainder of your life. The issue is, though, Bridget, two things have occurred. Well, multiple things, but two things in that story came down. One thing you mentioned and one thing I'm going to bring up. Rockefeller created the system. Rockefeller didn't have vocation. Rockefeller was able to create those to do the vocation for him and his company. So he realized how valuable his time was. You do the work, I keep my time, money still comes in. And then you talked about the gold rush earlier. The gold rush was wild times, right? Everybody was heading west because they saw that there was access to gold, there was a lot of money and all this, and so the people were spending time, getting the things they needed to go to west to go get gold. But the majority of the money during that time in the gold rush was not made by those who went after the gold.
That's right.
It was those that sold the shovels.
Mm-hmm.
Those that knew you're going to need this, you're going to go work, you're going to buy this. I don't have to go get the gold because you are already paying me the gold that I would have to go get because you're going to need this to go do the vocation. And so everybody's wired is all out of whack, which is why when we tell people that the goal to financial freedom is to make money spending the least amount of time possible, everyone's wires get crossed. Like, how is that possible that you're telling me, you're telling me I'm not going to work, I'm not supposed to work, and I'm supposed to make money not working? That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But most people aren't wired this way because the system wasn't designed to teach us to do it that way.
Right. I mean, what ideas do you have? Do you think that there's any possibility that teaching financial literacy is going to become part of the education system anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that. I think there will be pockets of places in the country where you may see that, certain states, certain sectors, it could be a lot of times political for sure, whether it's a red state or a blue state or whatever. You may see in pockets of areas where, yes, that may come up where, you must take a personal finance course or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Even if you take a personal finance course, you're going to learn, okay, maybe how to write a check. Hey, this is a savings account. This is this. But when the personal finance course is not going to teach you what you need to do if your tires blow out and you got no money and now you're strapped for cash. They're not going to teach you what you can do to not have to trade time for money. They're not going to teach you how to compound and invest. They're not going to teach you real estate. They're not going to teach you the things that really matter, because that's not going to be in the system. Because if enough people learn that, then there's a lot of people that are not going to be doing the job, doing the work, doing the vocation. System starts to break. But what people are not realizing is that now society is picked up on, wait a minute, ever since the pandemic and all those stimulus checks and the money started flowing, people started getting their monies into all sorts of things, cryptocurrency and memes and all this. And so people started making money. Nobody wants to what? Nobody wants to work. And so these businesses started saying, wait a minute, we're going to run into a problem because nobody wants to work anymore. And if nobody's working, we're not going to make money. But if we can find other forms of things and resources to do these jobs, then we don't need the people. So fine, you won't have to work. We'll get artificial intelligence or robotic to do the job. Well, since then, the money that came in from the stimulus has only started to dwindle because inflation went up, debt went up, and then it was poor money management. So now these people are looking for jobs that are no longer existing, or those that are in jobs are being sent into the unemployment pool. And now what we're finding is, well, there's no jobs there, and I don't know how the money really operates. And so this is where we're going to start seeing the decline of the middle class and the divide that people are worried about. This is how you do it. You eliminate the AI. AI is not going to eliminate the plumber or the janitor or the kitchen. No. They're going to eliminate the C-suite executive. They're going to eliminate the director, the manager. And that's all middle class. Going back to what you were saying, those people living in the good neighborhoods, but suddenly can't afford it. Well, you can't afford it if you don't got a high-paying job that no longer exists because AI took it. And so those people are going to be in a world of trouble later because those jobs are not going to exist. So all of us are going to need to know really how money works and how to compound it, not using our time.
I want to ask you a question. This is another major change, especially in the last, I'm going to say, 8 to 10 years. What impact has ease and accessibility of delivery? What impact has that had on the average American's savings and wallet?
Yeah. Convenience is expensive, right? And that goes right to your point. Convenience is very, very expensive in general, right? Delivery is expensive, right? The same food you would only spend if you went to the store $8 now costs you $21 plus delivery. You go to a convenience store, right? Like a gas station. The candy bar there is $1.85, but if you go down to the local supermarket, it's only 90 cents. So convenience as in general is very expensive. The other problem is that delivery and all these things and how we get things so instantly, what it's doing is actually hindering the endurance of individuals to be able to overcome adversity, because we don't get it quick, we give up. It's too hard, we can't. Those in the future that are going to be successful, for anybody that's a millennial or Gen Z, anyone listening, take this advice. This is good, free advice just for you. Listen carefully. Those that learn how to overcome adversity will be the ones successful in the future. People they don't have that muscle of overcoming, of wherewithal, of pushing through, of perseverance, of overcoming the difficult moments. These people are tapping out quick because everything for us happens quickly. We scroll on the internet, we got all the news we need. We got the videos, we got this, we got that, we instant messaging, we get text messages, whatever. Everything happens quick. We want to get food. We want to get a delivery. Everything happens right away. So we're getting conditioned for things to happen quickly. So if something takes a little bit of time, that is going to give people a lot of difficulty. But those that can overcome it do well. That's why some of these things, even like the weight loss drugs stuff going on. I got no problem with like health conditions and that. I got it. My mother-in-law takes it because of health conditions. All good. But there are people that are just simply taking it because why? Because they don't want to have to get up every day or 5 days of the week to go hit the gym and then be programmed on a particular diet, eating things that they may or may not want. They would rather do it the other way, but
Right.
all of that stuff eventually catches up. So those listening, overcoming adversity, those who can overcome adversity and persevere in the future, those are going to be the individuals that are going to be successful in our society later on.
I agree with you. And you bring up such a good point. That shortened, not just a shortened attention span, but the shortened desire to work for something you really want is diminishing. In some ways, just to carry further what you're saying, when you know that you can just jump online and in an hour it's going to be at your door, I also feel like it is diminishing the enjoyment of what we acquire. So like when you're getting less of that pride in achieving it and actually getting it and using it. So it's leading to overall, I think, just a diminished joy in life.
That's right.
It's, but money-wise, so I shouldn't expose my own opinion here, but when I've done financial analysis with some of my coaching clients, it is shocking when you actually add up the money spent on DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats.
Yes.
And then also going out to eat in a normal fashion and then stocking their home and throwing food out that they don't eat because they use a delivery service. I don't know if you've ever done this, but this is a challenge with some of by the way, earning a high income. So this is usually it's situations where high income and they feel like they don't have any money left and they're like, where's my money going? So when we do that type of audit, jaw dropping. So I would just say if anyone is listening to us and you're having that feeling, that is one of the first places to look. I know it doesn't solve everything, but challenge yourself for the next 30 days. You won't have a single thing delivered to your house and just see what happens.
No, you're so spot on, Bridget, on that one. That's why that chapter, again, expense management is chapter 1 in our course of Freedom Builders Academy. And we literally do an exercise. Like I mentioned, there's homework involved. In chapter 1, we do what's called an objective cost assessment. And it literally illuminates in their life those deficiencies, where money is really going. And then there's a list of just objectively direct questions to the user about what they just finished in their assignment. And that's where we start working and start doing surgery financially on their lives. So you're spot on this one. A lot of times we are either eating or drinking our money away. It's actually causing us the problems that we're finding ourselves in today. You are so spot on. It's
wild. And when you actually calculate those numbers, because an order here, an order there, you don't feel it. It's like you're driving your car and the tires are just slightly low pressure. And you're still driving, you're still getting where you want to go, and you still feel good. Temperature's good, but you don't understand the wear and tear and the drag on it until after the fact. The other one that I run into in my industry is subscriptions.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm not saying that some of them are great. If you've got a subscription and you use it and it's adding to your business or your life or your financial knowledge, hallelujah, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes I'll have a subscription, I'm not using it, but for some reason I don't cancel it. So and I'm a coach that does this, right? So all of us, I guess my point is, we're all susceptible to it. Yeah. So on that note, George, clearly you're highly passionate around financial literacy, financial freedom, building these systems around money. Does that mean that your life's perfect and you've never made a mistake and never lost it? So could you just share with everyone how you have handled that? Like, was there a mistake you made or a loss that you had? And how did you bounce back from that? And how do you keep moving forward?
Yeah, I remember,
making it a lesson instead of a loss.
A lesson, that's right. It's always a lesson, right? It's never a loss. It's just wins and lessons. And so there was a story about this one not too long ago. This would have been about 3 years ago. I was in a trade within our financial community. And we got into an investment. We saw an opportunity there. We got into the trade or whatever the case may be. I was probably up like 13 or 1400% on the trade or something of the sort. I mean, weird numbers on the screen, weird numbers. And it's like, whoa. I don't know. And we always talk about some of our rules. We have rules in our, we teach people this stuff with investing. We have, you create rules, you make rules or whatever the case may be. And there's rules that I have on mine when I do my investing. I don't know. And it wasn't that it was necessarily because of the dollar figure, because I've made those amounts before. So it's not that.
Right.
But
It was
for
more that
whatever
percentage
reason,
of gain, right?
yeah, the percentage,
Yeah.
yeah, it was all that. We've done that before, but I don't know if I was in a mood or what was going on, but I decided to I didn't exercise the discipline that I normally do there. And so I'm over here, we're chit-chatting, I'm talking to buddies, and we're cooing and kikiing, and we're talking about all this stuff. And I would say it wouldn't have been ever, may have not been even an hour and a half later or something. An hour and a half later, some news dropped around the company. And something went south or whatever. And suddenly it was like this waterfall of the stock coming down. So much so that I went up from being up almost 12 or 1300% to down maybe 15%. Now, somebody may say, well, okay, you only lost 15% of your investment. No, I didn't.
That's
I
right.
lost nearly 1400%.
Correct.
Because I was up there. Yeah, from the initial investment, it was only a small amount. But at that point in time, that was no longer my investment. My investment
That's
was
right.
almost a 10x
Everything you left on the table.
on. So I just remember that day, a lesson, right? About not following through on the disciplines. But I would tell you that literally for anybody, right? Anybody listening to this, it doesn't matter how savvy you are as an investor, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now. Later on, of course,
That's
the
right.
money was made back up, but it's really more about if you don't stick to your disciplines and your processes, you won't find advancement in anything you're doing financially. You just won't. It doesn't matter who you are and how much money you're making. I did not follow through on my processes and I clearly was not disciplined. So then I had to learn a lesson. So lessons are for anybody if you're just not following through on your things. And unfortunately, I learned a valuable lesson. It didn't feel good for sure.
Right.
But, it was a place of vulnerability at that time because I was like, man, like I should have known better. And so it was the next few days, like rehashing where I went wrong and what I would do different the next time. So yeah, that even on myself was up 13. It was almost 1400%, and I ended up losing out of the trade down 15%.
Tapping into the mindset, because I think you would agree with me that mindset dominates and rules everything we do. How did you keep your mindset strong immediately after that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it was tough emotionally in the sense of like, I'm such an idiot. Like I should have known better. So that the emotional piece, you just deal with your emotion, but your emotions are deceiving you all the time, right?
Yes.
You may wake up in the morning and not feel like going to school, but kids, you need to go to school.
You're going to school.
Your feelings are deceiving you, right? So my feelings, how I was feeling was one thing. But in my mindset, it was, okay, this was a setback, but this is another one that I can overcome. And so it's the muscle of overcoming adversity. And so it's all of us. We have to develop the muscle of overcoming adversity because that is the only way we're going to make it in the long term. And so instead of drowning in my sorrows, I'm going to go eat out and I'm going to go eat some ice cream and I'm going to go doing this. No. Okay, let's pause. Let's rehash what happened. Where did I go wrong mentally in this thing? And then let's pause on it. Because the first thing a lot of times people with investing want to do is they want a revenge trade. Now I'm going to get that money back.
That's right.
You're on full time out, buddy. Your trade was done. You sit it out. So I sat it out. I think it was about a week. Just following, rehashing the process. Okay, so if I was getting in this trade, I'd be doing it here. I would sell it here. Okay, boom, it happened. Following it for a week. And then, okay, mentally and emotionally, okay, I feel like I'm back to a baseline. Then I got back in and continued forward. Meanwhile, counseling and coaching and all this, despite gotta still keep giving guidance to people on a regular basis. But again,
that's right.
It's just a reminder that it could happen literally to any of us.
Well, it's a reminder that we're human.
That's right.
We're not robots, right? We're human. So, and I'm glad you brought that up, is that you still show up and you still work and you still allowed your passion to come through. I think when I hear that someone's able to do that, I feel that you understand that the core essence of who you are is not tied to each result, right? You are the man that you are every day. And you show up in your faith and your passion and your commitment to others and your commitment to your family. And yet you blew that, but that is not the determining factor of who you are as a man.
Exactly right.
Am I right on that?
You're 1,000% spot on. At the end of the day, I have an obligation first to God, of course, in my life, but to my family, to your point, right? To my wife, right? Being consistent, right? In regards to being the leader of my family. My sons, all my sons looking up to me, right? Being able to commit, right? This is despite them getting upset. Hey, Dad, can you come play basketball? I'm not going to tell them no. right? And my dad never told me no. When I wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
growing up, my dad never told me. It didn't matter. And that man was trading time for money like a lunatic. But it
Right.
didn't matter. When it was time, hey, can we pull? My dad always came and played. So for them, despite whatever was going on, whatever was happening, every day I'm saying yes to the kids and I'm showing up and I'm there and present. So yeah, I mean, those things don't define us, right? Money doesn't define
That's
us. At
right.
the end of the day, like I told everybody from the beginning, money is not your asset. Money is simply just a tool to help you get to your ultimate destination, which is financial freedom. And whatever that means for you, for me, it was simply, again, sharing time with my loved ones and making memories with all the people that I care about, my mother, my father, my wife, my kids, just my sister, my brother-in-law, making memories and just consuming the time as much as possible with the people I care about as often as I want is all I care about. And that to me is just the freedom I'm looking for. So those trades, the money, the investments, the real estate, all these things that I'm in, that stuff doesn't define me. What defines me is those people and obviously my faith.
Right. George, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. Is anyone too old to start?
Never too old to start. Ever.
But George, and I'm 59, I won't have all those decades of compounding. How can I be financially free?
You can be financially free by creating freedom for those that are coming behind you as you're building the freedom for whatever's left ahead of you.
So it's not too late.
Never too late.
George, it's too early. I'm so young and I have a small income. Why should I start now?
Because you clearly haven't figured out the true most valuable asset in your life, which is time. Time is right now most valuable if you are a young individual. Use the time to help you compound your money.
But George, I just got screwed over in my third divorce. There's no way I can get financial freedom.
You are probably going to be strapped for cash for sure if you're in your third divorce. But even in that, you can still build freedom for you. And if you have children, for your children that are coming behind you.
I think my 13th child, there's no way that we as a family can become financially secure and free.
Yeah, with 13 children, the first thing you got to do is, number one, organize your expenses coming out. And then for every one of their futures, start putting money in there to compound because they have significantly more assets than you do, which is time. So use their asset to their benefit while they're under your roof.
Okay. I guess my point in that exercise is anyone listening to us, it doesn't matter. Been in prison, lost your job, screwed up your taxes, been divorced, getting married, whatever. Anyone can choose today to increase their financial literacy. They can learn the Freedom Builders, the Financial Freedom Builder. They can go through your academy. They can get a coach. Anyone that is listening, it doesn't matter where you start, you could change your life.
Exactly right.
Impossible question. Would you like an impossible question, George?
I can take the impossible question. I may not have an answer for it, though. Let's see.
Okay. All right. So I join your community. And first I do Freedom Builder Academy, and then I sign up and I have a coach with you. How soon can I expect to feel a difference in my life?
You can expect to feel a difference in your life within the first week of taking the Freedom Builders Academy course. Before you even decide to join our financial community, you would have joined our financial community because you would have already seen the transformation happening through the course. That I can guarantee for sure. That's not an impossible question. Okay. That's actually a guarantee. Within the first week, as long as you're taking the course, after the first chapter, you're already going to start seeing transformation.
George, this is so exciting. I am so thrilled that you are spreading this message because it is a message of hope. And it is something that is available to any person who desires it.
Exactly right.
Right. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, all of your contact information, wherever you're consuming this podcast, you can reach out to George and you can connect with the Financial Freedom Builders Academy. You can connect anywhere you're consuming this in the description. I want to thank you for being our guest and being so vulnerable and also just sharing, I'm excited to dig in more and I'm already pretty excited about financial literacy myself, but thank you for being our guest today on The Inner Estate and sharing this message of hope with everyone who's listening.
I had a great time and I hope this was of value to your audience and just take it one step at a time, create your checkpoints, and remember wins and lessons.
Wins and lessons. If you're listening to this episode of The Inner Estate, I hope you'll join us again for the next one. Have a great day.